Okay, well, welcome all. We'll call this meeting to order here. Councillor Lennox Zepp, are you there? Should be joining us by Teams today.
I am, and I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize the treaty territory we are in. We recognize that Prince Albert is located within Treaty 6 territory and is the homeland of the Dakota and the Métis. We extend our respect to all Indigenous people for their value, past and present contributions, and recognize and respect the cultural diversity within the city of Prince Albert. So, if we could, I'll get approval of the agenda. Councillor Miller.
So moved, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Votes open. Councillor Lennox Zepp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. One more. Close that, yeah. Okay. Accepted. Thank you. The next order of business we have, number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. You all know what that is, and if you have one, please declare it to the city clerk. 4, adoption of minutes. Mayor Dion.
Also move.
Thank you. Votes open. Councillor Lennox Zepp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll close it. The next order of business we have is number 5, delegations. We have several in our gallery today. I would like to welcome the past president of the Prince Albert Minor Football Association, along with the past president as well, here to give us a presentation. If you could, be willing to go up to the mic to start your presentation. You'll have 5 minutes. Welcome. One second. Sorry. Just let me turn on your mic on. Just about there. There you go, sir. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Councilors. I am Bob Coffin, and accompanying me is Taras Kachkowski. Thank you for allowing Taras and I to make this presentation to you today. We are here as representatives of the Prince Albert Minor Football Association. On behalf of our members, we are asking for your permission to name the field between the Crescent Heights Arena and the John Diefenbaker School as Wendell Witter Field. Why this particular field, this parcel of city land? From 2008 to present day, this field has been used by PA Minor Football to run River Rider spring and fall football programs that have served hundreds of Prince Albert and area youth. For 10 of those years, a remarkable man, Wendell Witter, was personally involved in those programs as a coordinator and coach. He spent countless hours at this field with his charges, the Pee Wee River Riders, 10 to 12-year-olds, instilling in them a love of the game, as well as teaching and coaching the fundamentals of the sport. His footsteps are all over that field, accompanied by those of the hundreds of kids he guided and supported as they learned to play the game. Being on this particular field, teaching and coaching our youth to play and enjoy the game of football was where he was happiest. Born and raised and schooled in Prince Albert, Wendell was the penultimate, I think I got that right, example of someone who did his best to give back to the community that gave him so much. He was instrumental in the administration, organization, and facilitation of PA Minor football in this city. His selfless contributions as a builder have been recently recognized by the Prince Albert Sports Hall of Fame. It would be fitting to name this field after Wendell Witter, the very field where he gave of himself to the sport, the community, and especially to the development of those participants who gathered there with him.
Wendell was a mentor to many people in the community. As a pastor, he was a mentor to the members of his church. As a coach, he was a mentor to many young players and new coaches working alongside him. I was one of those younger, inexperienced coaches about 12 years ago when I found out that Prince Albert Minor football existed and decided I wanted to become involved. I had lots of enthusiasm and I played football in high school, but I had never coached before. Wendell taught me and others who came after me to be firm but fair, but also to make sure that the kids had fun learning how to play football. He believed that everyone should get an equitable amount of playing time as possible. This remains a cornerstone of PA Minor football's approach to the game. This approach may never win us a league championship, but it has produced several players that not only played high school football in Prince Alberton area, but also about 20 players so far that have played or are currently playing on the Regina Thunders, Saskatoon Hilltops, University of Regina Rams, Saskatchewan Huskies, Calgary Colts, University of Calgary Dinosaurs, and most recently a player on the Saskatoon Valkyries female football team. Almost all of these players were coached by Wendell Witter for at least one season.
We ask you to give this application your highest consideration. This request is fully supported by the River Rider players, alumni, their parents, the coaches, and the River Rider executive, as evidenced by the letters of support included in our application. The Witter family have been contributing to this community in numerous ways for many years. Recognizing Wendell's many contributions and the many hours he spent on that field working with our youth, our future leaders, by naming the field after him would be a lasting tribute. It would be a recognition of Wendell's exceptional volunteerism and the many lives he affected during his time with us. It is our understanding that if this request is granted, the procurement and placement of any signage becomes the financial responsibility of PA minor football. On behalf of the association, we will gladly take on that responsibility with the advice and guidance of the relevant city departments. We thank you for your consideration of our request.
Thank you very much for that presentation. If we have any questions, Mayor Dion.
Well, thank you for your presentation, and it was a great honor to be part of the ceremony on Saturday night that put him into the Sports Hall of Fame. And so I just want to thank you for your presentation, and I'll actually move the motion to refer it back to Community Services, who's responsible for our fields and our parks, to report back to us. So again, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mayor Dion. We appreciate that.
Councillor Grodnick?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Taras and Bob, for your presentation today. I appreciate it as well. And I too know the impact that River Riders football has had in the community. You know, I have a neighbor kid right now who is grade 5 or 6 and playing and loving it, and in particular, his parents said that the program, you guys have found a place for him to play, and that's important, and that's what that program has done for so many of our youth in Prince Albert, and so I appreciate that, and I will support the motion to go for to Community Services for report and review, and hopefully we'll see something to recognize Mr. Witter. So thanks once again for presenting today.
Councillor Zarikowski.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Bob and Terrace, thank you very much for your presentation today. And really thank you both for your thousands of hours that you've put in to our community and to our youth over the years, because I know you both have been there in different sports and been there to organize, to coach, and both as a parent. So thank you. And while you're here in front of the microphone, I wanted to say that. Certainly supportive of this moving forward. What I like about this ask is it really does come from multiple sources. It comes from the organization. It comes from the president. It comes from the past president. It comes from the executive. And it comes from the alumni, past players. So I think that's a really good cross-section of the impact your organization has had, and you've had really as well. I remember Terrace, when you started coaching, I was coaching minor football as well when you came to the city and started coaching. So I think it's a sport and activity that has strong roots now and has done a lot of wonderful things for young people. So I like this. I'm looking forward to seeing this move forward, and we can get something up there in a timely manner. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, thanks for the presentation and for all the work you do. I also will be supporting this motion. Yeah, so if no more questions, we'll go ahead and vote. Okay, the vote's open. Councillor Lennox-Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
One more. There we go. Close it. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So the next item we have on our agenda, 5.2, request to install Prince Albert Crime Stoppers bumper stickers on all city vehicles. And today we have a verbal presentation from Mr. Cannon, Secretary Treasurer of Prince Albert Crime Stoppers Program. If you will, sir, step up to the podium and you'll have 5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you very much for allowing me this time to talk to you for a couple of minutes. Crime Stoppers exists solely to provide the public the opportunity to provide tips to the city police department anonymously. In other words, none of our tips can ever be called into court. No tipster will ever be identified, and that's gone all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada. Since inception in 1995, we've been very busy. We've received somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8,000 tips. We're very close to helping the police seize and recover property somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million. We know that we can help even more, but we need to get our name out there. We need to keep our name in front of people. We need to keep pushing ahead because we know we can increase the tips. Other cities have identified Crime Stoppers on all of their vehicles, and we're just simply asking that you help us out by getting our name and number out there and putting up bumper stickers like this on all of your vehicles, which we will supply. We have no problem supplying them. We just ask that you put them on your vehicles for us in order to get our name and our number out there and help us to help the city police. Again, understand that Crime Stoppers is totally a public program represented by the board of directors. We are not a police program. And again, all of the tips that come in belong to us, and that's why they can never go to court. So somebody asked me one day, well, what do you do for Saskatchewan? There's 5 major programs that operate in Saskatchewan: Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw, and of course Saskatoon and Saskatchewan Crime Stoppers. Since inception of the Association of Crime Stoppers programs in Saskatchewan, we've been collecting statistics. And what you need to know is in Saskatchewan, Crime Stoppers programs have taken approximately $20 million worth of drugs off the market. They've recovered approximately $22 million worth of property and money. So we know our program works. We are also worldwide, and we share information with all of our other programs. Today, I would ask you to help us, to help the city police, and to help the city in order to be able to get our name and number out there. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thanks, Al, for the presentation. I certainly I support the idea. I don't know whether there's any legalities or anything, so I'll move the motion so we can get the report back from Public Works. But I think it's a great idea. The more advertising we can get out to help prevent and stop crime in our city, the better. And I'm more than impressed that 7,800 tips have led to 785 arrests. That's 10% is pretty high. That's really good. And then the amount of drugs that are being seized as a result of the tips is just, it's great for the community. It's something that's needed. So if the more we can get that number out, the better. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate some of those comments. Again, this is something I think it's easy enough for us to do. And if it's going to allow some more recognition for, some of the great work that you can do and you have done in this report, receiving back $600,000 property recovered, goes a long way. And this is something our city definitely could use a little bit of help with. So I'll be supporting that motion. Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Any other comments? Okay, we'll open the motion, or the vote, sorry. Okay, the vote's open. Councillor Lennox-Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Close it. And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you. Our next order of business, 5.3, we have a presentation today from the Royal Canadian Legion. Proposed placements and monuments in a memorial square outside. A verbal presentation by Brenda Cripps today, First Vice President, Royal Canadian Legion, Branch Number 2. If you will, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to start by saying thank you to the Mayor and to all the councillors for allowing me to be here and speak on this subject. I just want to give you some history and reason why I would like to erect the monuments for our present veterans as well as all veterans since the Second World War. To this day, there are still people who do not know about the wars and conflicts since World War II. We would like to remember and honor all of our veterans since then. To be a veteran, you do not have to go to war or shoot and kill somebody. Once we joined the Canadian Armed Forces and signed on the dotted line knowing that we were agreeing to giving everything up to and including our lives for our country. You are a veteran. The conflicts since World War II are the Korean War, and that was from June 23rd, 1950 to July 27th, 1953. Vietnam, that was a 20-year war from 1955 to 1975. The Gulf War, August the 2nd, 1990 to February 28th, 1991. Afghanistan, October 7th, 2001 to October 30th, 2021. In the Afghan War, our latest one, we lost 158 Canadian soldiers, male and female, killed in Afghanistan. Since returning, and this is kind of a sad note, but I'm going to let you guys know anyway, we've had more soldiers commit suicide since returning to Canada than we lost in Afghanistan. So we would like to honor and remember all our veterans by erecting this monument, which recognizes our peacekeepers and all serving members of the armed forces, past and present, male and female. I feel that by erecting this monument, people will be made more aware of our veterans and remember what they did for us and continue to do for us and for Canada. Our committee has already received $17,000 from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch Number 2 and $13,000 from Veterans Affairs Canada. We would like to make the announcements to the public before the end of May, if at all possible, and kickstart this, or if not, then sometime in July. It would be greatly appreciated if we could have everything done for the fall. The location that we have been looking at and would like to see is the spot right out in front where the flowers go. And the monument, if you looked at PA now, it says we're erecting 6. We're not. We're doing the one big monument, and the silhouettes are going to be cut out. And so even at night with the light from City Hall or whatever, the monument will be, you'll be able to see the silhouettes. And in that monument, the uniforms depict the different, what am I trying to say? The different areas, you know, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, and also one of the monuments has a skirt. So it would be nice and it'd be visible all night long. So that is where we would like to do it, and if we can get things kick-started. That's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll move the report be referred to Community Services Department. Brenda, thank you for your presentation today. I'm fully supportive of veterans, have my entire teaching career, and I think it's important that we do include, be inclusive as well in honoring the men and women that served and continue to serve our country. So I like that idea that you had mentioned about female members of our Canadian forces, services. The decision of which monuments I think is important. Did I hear you correctly that, are we having a Vietnam War monument? Or
What I'd like to do is we have the main one with the 4 silhouettes,
Okay.
and then at the head and the foot, we would have 2 smaller monuments with a soldier standing guard, and one would show Afghanistan and the other one would show Korea.
So Afghanistan, Korea, and okay, and then, okay, peacekeepers as well. Is
Well,
that
the peacekeepers, it won't say peacekeepers, they will be on the big monument, and you can just tell by looking at, you know, like they're male, female, or whatever, but we just thought we would recognize Afghanistan as one
Yeah.
of the wars, and Korea.
And the Korean War, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah, because those are, two of the major wars that Canadians have been involved in. Good, but we're not directly acknowledging peacekeepers. Like, we're not going to have like a monument directly to all the peace, because Canadians have served, you know, in 40 different right now, I think we're in 40 different countries, our peacekeepers. And, you know, my nephew is being deployed to Latvia as part of the NATO forces to protect Latvia from that evil dictator that borders that country. And so I'm just wondering if we are going to acknowledge peacekeepers.
Well, it will be, like, they're up there as peacekeepers, but we were, in our discussions, we were wondering where to draw the line. Do we go with the Gulf War and put up a monument for the Gulf War? Do we, you know, like our peacekeepers, or somehow on the big monument?
Just
We
have
can-
peacekeepers kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
no, I'm not saying that we have to acknowledge every
Yeah.
peacekeeping mission, but just peacekeepers as a general group
Yeah.
since 1947. Okay, good. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for the work. And I have 100% support of
you.
our veterans, as you know, and as most of the veterans know as well, that I've been supporting them and will support this project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Zurikowski.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I love the presentation. I love the idea. Absolutely. Let's find ways we can remember all of our veterans, how we can honor all of our veterans and all of our service members. I think collectively, I think we can move forward. And I appreciate the efforts of the Legion in this way to push us towards having this conversation. I think that's fantastic. So I'm all over that and fully supportive of finding ways to do that. What I have questions about, it may come in the next stage, but it just seems like there's a lot of details yet to be worked out. I guess, question to you, to the speaker, if I may, was there an artist or some consultations that were taken with professionals before
Yes.
this? It seems like this design is here before us, and I'm wondering about that process.
Okay, I'm sorry, I guess I should have passed around pictures, but yes, we've been dealing with an outfit out of Saskatoon. It's just slipped my mind, Metal Man or what, and he's given us the quotes and everything,
Okay.
what it's gonna cost and,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
And
thank
he
you.
does a lot of work for the Legion, and he always gives us a really good price if it's to do with Legion or veterans, so, yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering, Mr. Deputy Mayor, there's some memory I have of this. We had this, this was before us before. And I'm wondering why it's before us. What's happened between then and now? What's changed in this conversation since we last had this? We chatted about this.
It's a good question. I would have to probably refer to the director, because I know this report had come to us previous, and it wasn't two options, I guess, as well. So I had questions around, you know, where are we going to land with the two options? So if you will, Director.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to Councillor Zurikowski's inquiry, the department likes to maintain a consistent process with these types of requests that come from partnering organizations. So similar to earlier about the naming of a field, or whether it be the opportunity to use space in Memorial Square to place monuments, having the organization present to present the proposal allows council as well to ask questions of that organization, maybe have some initial clarification before the referral is made.
Okay.
And lastly, it also demonstrates to council that the department's committed to working on this, so that, just being clear, so then when the report comes back with a specific recommendation on it, it's certainly not the first time that council's had a chance to review it.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's important that we find additional ways to honor our veterans and our peacekeepers and our service members. What I'm looking forward to is increasing those conversations to different perspectives, till we get something that's a win-win and agreeable and something that will last for years to come.
Okay, any other comments? Well, thank you very much, Brenda, for your presentation, and we'll go ahead and vote on this motion.
Thank you, sir.
Vote's open. Councillor Lennox Zepp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Closing the vote. Accepted, and that's also carried unanimously. We'll let the guests leave our chambers. Big Carol. So the next order of business is our consent agenda. I'll allow people to raise any issues that they want or remove any issues from that agenda item. Well, I'm going to remove 6.7. That's the only one I would like to flag. 6.4 and 6.5. 6.4 and 6.5. Seeing no others, then we'll go ahead and pass the rest of them. Oh, yes, I need a motion first before we can vote. Thank you, Councilor Zurkowski. The vote's open to move the balance of the consent agenda. Councilor Lennox Epps, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. It's closed. Accepted, and that's carried. 6.4. Councilor Zurkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at this location, at this address, I just need a bit of clarity, if I may. Correspondence is from the resident that lives there. And it was my understanding that there is a process that exists that if there is a person that is disabled, that they're allowed to or are able to put no parking reserved for disability parking, for example, in front of the residence. So I wonder if I could just get some clarity on that process and moving forward, because it seems to me the way I understand this correspondence is that's what's being looked at. And I'm wondering why this couldn't be solved internally before it came here. I'm wondering how many other asks are there that people don't bother writing to council in order to solve this, which I think is easily solvable, unless I'm missing something in the correspondence.
Thank you for your question. We'll turn it over to the Director of Community Service, maybe? Director of Public Works. Mr. Hicks, go ahead.
Thank you for the question. So this is the first we've seen of this request. We haven't had any others in that area. There is plenty of on-street parking in that area, but there are also some no parking zones. So I'm not sure what the issue is. We'd have to dive into it.
That helps me out, and that I understand if this is the first time administration's seen it. Usually, a resident contacts city councilor or calls the department administratively, say this is my issue, what's the process, working through it. But I'm confident that there is a win in here somewhere for the resident. And since it's the first time the department's seen that, then I will move that we refer it to, which is the recommendation in front of us. So I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Miller.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I was just wondering if we do something a little different with snow removal with these locations?
Well, this area is within the downtown core, which gets snow lifts. So this is just 2 blocks from City Hall here.
So I was wondering if we do anything different in residential areas who have disabled no parking zones in front of their houses.
Most residential areas have an individual driveway, so usually they're parking on their driveway. There are a few locations where there have been requests for a no parking zone or a dedicated accessibility handicap zone in front of that residence. Each individual request is handled individually. Like, it depends on what the needs are and whether it meets our bylaws.
Thank you.
I only have the one question. I read the report. I know the referral's going to your department. Mr. Hicks, I guess, is there any issues or any concerns you have with this application that you could maybe speak to?
Well, I would just want to have our traffic manager have a look at this to see if there is an issue in the area, because we've not had one before, and there is a high-rise in the area, so, but as we looked at the streets before the meeting here, there's plenty of parking within the area, so I'm not sure what the issue is, but we'll look into it for you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Zarkowski.
Sure, thank you for that. So the motion is receive and refer to the Public Works Department. Done. So if there is a resolution that is amenable, that can be resolved, great. But if there is no process that exists to find a resolution, then what happens with this motion? How does the department see it?
Well, I guess with any of these, we often get a lot of requests for special requests in front of places, like if
But
it's a
we're just
large.
talking about folks who happen to be disabled. That's all we're talking about, right?
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, sometimes apartment buildings have off-street parking, right? The unit is supplied a parking stall, but maybe they're requesting something special from the city. I'm not saying that's the case here, but in those examples, we usually refer it back to the property owner. It's on their onus to provide those sites. We can't provide specialized parking for every individual and on every street because it's a public street. So we have to look at the situation to see what it is, because downtown here, we do have a couple of high-rises, but if you said every person in that building has a car and every person should have a spot on the street, that would be not possible.
No, I think we're
Yeah.
just, and I appreciate the perspective, and I think I understand the process a little bit better. I think we're simply talking about somebody who happens to be disabled,
Right.
and we're looking to see what the process is to find resolution. I think that my wish would be that as the department vets through and goes through its process, if it determines the answer is no, nothing could be done, I'd like to hear that. I'd like that to come back to us and have that conversation here. And I don't know if that resolution in front of us reflects that. So I'm looking for some help. And report back,
And
please.
report back.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Tara Lennox-Up.
Go ahead, Councilor Lennox-Zapp.
Thank you very much. I'm in support of the motion and to hear back. I just had a question. What is the, the director had mentioned that there's a bylaw that this issue falls under. I'm just wondering if you know the name of the bylaw offhand. I wasn't sure which.
Well,
one
we have a traffic
contained.
bylaw, which covers a lot of different areas, yes, including parking.
Okay, perfect. And is it expected then that the department will be contacting this resident?
Well, I would imagine that our transportation manager will look into it and would want to talk to this individual to see exactly what the specific issue is. So yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
But I think
Dion.
it's also important that your department explains, even though we put up a handicap parking sign, that's not their personal parking spot.
That is
That
correct.
I can come along with my handicap parking sticker and park in that spot. So that's why I'm kind of concerned, especially the location they want downtown with all these buildings, you know, and I think that's what the person thinks, that if they go get that marked, that's going to be theirs. So I think it's important when you do talk to them, that that's explained to them.
Yes, I totally agree with that because it would still be a public spot on a public street.
Thanks for that clarification. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Votes open. Councilor Lennox-Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Close it. Yep. Accepted. And that's carried. We'll go to 6.5. Councilor Zarkowski.
Thank you. I think my question may be more about process than anything. I'm reading the correspondence again, and I'm going to assume, based on the last answer, that administration hasn't seen this ask yet, so I'd like to know if I'm right or wrong on that. And if I'm a developer, and thankfully we have a lot of engaged developers, more and more every week, every month, that are spending money in developing and being entrepreneurs, that's fantastic. But I don't understand how you develop and then find out, oops, I'm surprised by the requirements of the parking bylaw that I'm not allowed to pour all this concrete, that I can only do so much, and I'm finding out after some length of time after construction. So that's the way I read the correspondence. So if I could have some help on that, please. Thank you.
Director of Planning Services.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Zurikowski, for the question. Regarding process, every construction project, as you know, requires a building permit. This is a bit of a cross-departmental issue in that essentially what is being asked today is a waivering of our crossing bylaw. So part of our building permit process is that it is referred to the Department of Public Works. They apply their bylaws as necessary to the site plan that we receive, and they approve the crossing application. In this specific case, we did receive an application. We did receive a site plan. I looked at it today that did meet our crossing bylaw and was signed off by our Department of Public Works, and therefore we were in a position to issue the building permit. So essentially what is being asked today is, potentially as these units have been constructed, they're running into issues that maybe weren't anticipated, and that is what is in front of you today. I checked in with, the issue has come up, I believe, as reads in the letter. I spoke to our planning manager and one of our public works managers as well, not in any formal correspondence, however, which is why it's in front of you today.
Okay, so I still don't, that's fine. I mean, it's going to go to the department for report. And I guess I'd like to see not just referred to the planning and department for report, but, or for review, but for report as well. I'm thinking of those many, many residents that have come to us and asked for an additional crossing or widened their crossing. And why wasn't this anticipated during the plan that was submitted and before construction? So I'm a little hesitant. I'll be watching this one moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too will be watching for this one strictly because I am very well at the development. I've been there during construction and just was there last night again. Well, part of the problem is, and why it came to us afterwards, he's well known that he has a landscaping agreement, the crossing agreement, he has all those. So he's well versed on that. But the problem you have, if you drive by there, like I did last night, there was 17 vehicles. Yeah, that's the problem. It's not us, it's not our thing that we need so much grass, we need so much trees. That's, everyone in the city has to comply with that.
That's no surprise now.
It's no surprise, and it wasn't a surprise to them. They were well versed on it when they got their permit, that they have to put grass in, sidewalks, the crossings. They are well versed. Now that they're, have residents in there before the landscaping and the rest of it is completed, because they built over the winter, now that they have a parking issue, okay? Well, that was developed by themselves. I did ask, do you not ask when you're renting a place, how many vehicles a person has? Because that's where it should start. You know, if you only have a spot for one parking car and you're renting to someone that has 4 vehicles, you're already causing somebody else a headache, you know, let alone yourself, because now you're getting more requests to get rid of this and get rid of that. So I will be watching this too, because I support the plan that they got, and I believe they should put the landscaping in and the concrete and everything else as approved by the development permit. And that parking is an issue, and but unfortunately, if he would have brought it during the development process, I would have suggested that he buy more land and put parking in. because it continues to be an issue. And it's going to be an issue on that street because there's duplexes now on both sides of the street and 4 more to be built. So I was a little concerned driving on Woodbridge that we approved that many duplexes all in a row, like a whole block of them, because it is already becoming a parking issue on the one side, let alone the development on the other side. And he's coming to us after the fact to ask us to change the plan that he has to complete that we approved. And so I don't support any changes. He got his development permit, he understood it, and to me, the issue is that he didn't get a chance to finish it before his tenants moved in, and the tenants are causing the issue with all the vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. I would note that the developer's in the chamber, so if you have any questions for him directly, you can pose that to him. Okay, seeing none then. We'll go ahead and vote. Just give me a minute. There it is. Okay, vote's open. Councillor Lennox Zepp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. One more. Closed. And that motion's carried. The next item would be 6.7. This is the one I had removed. I just want to pull it up, 1 second. So thank you for the report. Very, very detailed, and it gives us a kind of a snapshot on what some of the other cities were doing within the province. I don't want this motion or this report to just disappear. I know it's for file as information, but I would like this to take some action on here. I do think that finding some incentives and some. I like the idea of under the report under Moose Jaw where you can apply to your taxes over a 7-year period and in some cases a little bit longer. I would like to see, some of the, at least an option for City Council at the next upcoming budget. I realize that we're already planning for our construction season and replacements, but would like to see something, a report from administration about the cost and include it into the budget next year. Yep. Oh, thank you, Councillor Edwards. He had indicated that I should have left the chair and handed over to. Oh, thank you for that, and my apologies to the chambers here. Fair enough. Councillor Zerkowski.
Which deputy am I talking to? Deputy, okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'll hand it over to Councillor. Oh, God. Yes, you do.
Oh, I'm good, yeah, thank
Okay.
you. So,
Sorry.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is would one of the options be, I think the homeowners, as you alluded to, would be interested in this conversation if they're looking at replacing their lead service connections anyway, and they have a lead pipe going up to their house. It only makes sense to, and the department over the last couple of years has done a great job at some continuity between those conversations. Talk to some of those people and they appreciate that. I wonder, the question that always comes up, well, I haven't got the cash, but can we put it on our taxes? Is that one option that in order to get the work done, rather than paying the thousands of dollars up front, that we could just defer it to our taxes? Is that one option administration would be looking at?
Refer to the Director of Public Works.
Thank you. I'll try to answer your question, but I might also have to refer to finance. But as you can see in the report, the other cities, Regina, Saskatoon, and Moose Jaw, have done exactly what you're suggesting. It would take a motion in council to make that happen. A report probably back from finance on the dollar values and the time frame and the interest rates that would apply to that. What we've done here is offered up what the other cities do as an example, and the dollar values that we think we would have to set aside in budget. because there would have to be additional funds to construct the work and then collect it later through taxation. As you can see in the report also, previous time that we offered a cost-sharing program, we just did not receive any uptake. After several years, we only had a couple of people take up on the program.
Yeah, it's a tough sell.
Any further questions, Councillor?
Yeah, it's a tough sell for sure. And mostly because of the cost. I've always been curious, if we took a look at that list of a map of all the homes that still have either lead service connections or lead pipes going up to their homes, and if we could overlay that with how many times that home has sold over the last 20 years, 25 years, the three that I'm thinking of probably have about 4 to 5 different homeowners in the last 20 years. So while it's probably not fair to say that not everybody has long-term investment in the home they purchase, I think that we should take another look at what else can we do to ensure those lead pipes get replaced. And if we can not assist the homeowner with that burden, but provide them with other options, like putting it on through their taxes, that's one ask that I've heard from a few residents over the years. So,
Yes,
thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
and that is one of the options, although Prince Albert has never taken that option to force that upon the citizens yet. The other cities have, and it's not an option anymore. They have to do it. When the city does their portion, then the homeowner has to do their portion. There's also the pipes within the house, so that would only take place from the property line to the wall of the building. Once you get inside the building and past the meter, then it's all the pipes within the home too that are also lead. One of the things that we do, and it is a program that we promote, is for those folks to get one of those filters, and you can get a reverse osmosis filter that attaches to your drinking water tap, which only costs $100 or $200. That solves the lead for the drinking water instantaneously at a very low cost, but it doesn't solve the problem throughout the entire house. So as long as you're not drinking the other water. So it is an option. We have made incredible strides in the last 10 years, from 750 down to 460. And we've been doing more every year when we've been trying to concentrate our water main replacements on streets that have high numbers of lead services. And then we're also finding, because we are the oldest city, the records, all of the small lots, especially in the older parts of the city with the square blocks, they used to be 25 and 33-foot lots. And there's lots of blank services. So the person may have built the original house and he bought 2 lots or 3 lots, and there's 3 services in the ground. We replace the one, we kill the other 2, you've taken 3 off the list. So we're finding a lot of that, especially in the downtown area, like every single little lot, like the block that City Hall sits on at one time might have been 30 or 40 different lots.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I certainly would support the idea of adding to taxes. I think it's something that we need to look at, but can we not look at it on a case-by-case basis? Could it not be applied to council to do that, or do we have to open it up and say, hey, we've got $30,000 this year, whatever that might be? Or could it come forward on a case-by-case? I don't know that. I don't know where to direct that question to.
Are you directing that question
I'm
to
directing that question to
admin?
someone who may answer that.
Who in administration would you answer that?
I think that would fall on our department and finances. If it was case by case, then you would be creating a lot more paperwork for the department, because if it's case by case, then we're probably going to have to bring it forward to you to approve the expenditure. Like I said, we tried a program in the past, in 2010. It lasted for 3 years. We only got 12 takers over 3 years. And at the time, the $2,000 incentive was more than 50% of the entire cost. Well, now, of course, it's more expensive today. I just don't know how many takers we'd have unless it was a mandatory program. I just don't, I see a lot of administrative work and not a lot of return personally.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. My question is, when a home is sold, are people aware that the service is lead? Or do they have to, is that part of their duty before purchase to come to City Hall and ask that question?
That would be a responsibility between the buyer and the seller. We don't get involved in that whatsoever,
Right.
but it is possible for a buyer to come to City Hall or a homeowner and ask, do you know if we have a lead service? And our manager can look them up and tell them what we know.
Okay, so it might be fair to say that a homeowner, a purchaser, is at the whim of whether the seller is going to tell them or not. People may not know to ask that as a question.
That's where a home inspection becomes very important. Most banks and most mortgages require one now. So I think the onus is there that they have to have a good home inspector that would inspect it and check to see what's coming up through the concrete floor, to see if, look under the sink, see if those are lead lines or not.
Thank you very much.
I think as well, when you make an offer, they do disclose. Part of the offer is to disclose, like whether there was water in the basement, lead pipe, all that kind of stuff, asbestos, all that kind of stuff is, depend on your real estate agent that you work with, but that's what happened with my house, is they had to disclose all of that when my agent made the seller do that. So, and they sign. So, Councillor Zurkowski.
Thank you. I think it's important discussion for the public because we have a lot of purchases being made and selling of homes. I do want to say I do know one young lady who bought a home recently, and the home inspection sector is an interesting one because it's not regulated. Anybody can print out a sign and say, I'm a home inspector, here's what's going to cost you for me to walk through your home, without any education or skills involved. So I think the public needs to be wary of that. I'm hopeful that's on the to-do list for the province, to regulate home inspections, inspectors. And also, I learned a lot from this story from the young lady who bought a home and has a lead pipe going up to the home, was not disclosed by the real estate agent because there is no requirement to do that. But she found out that the previous owner that was selling the house, there's a lead pipe going up, and hired a home inspector from Saskatoon. So it took a little homework to find out there was a lead pipe going up to the home and was not disclosed by the real estate agent. So again, I think somebody said the onus is on the buyer. The onus is definitely on the buyer. And I think we're talking about replacing lead pipes in our city. We've done a lot on that over the last 10 years. We need to continue. And whatever tools we can put in the toolbox to make that accelerated and easier, I think we need to have a conversation about that.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Just again, a question to the director. You had mentioned we had a previous program and you had said there's only 12 individuals that have taken up on it. I guess I apologize if I didn't see that report or remember that program, but could you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, so it says in the background of this report, in 2012, there was a $2,000 incentive program to provide financial assistance to homeowners to complete their portion of the upgrade. Only 12 residents took advantage of that program over the course of 3 years, and then the program ended because there was just no interest in the fourth year. We got no one, so it ended.
And I see in your costing, there's an average cost of about 84, and maybe that's not, it's in the report, not in your costing, but I think the city of Saskatoon has charged a flat rate. Is that kind of comparable what it would cost a resident to replace that?
Well, of course, it really depends on the situation. For instance, in the city of Prince Albert and most cities, the water main is on one side of the street or the other because the sewer goes down the middle. So if you're on the side of the street where the water main is, the distance from the water main to the property line to the house is shorter, thus that service costs less to replace than the one that has to cross all the way across the street to the property line and into the house. So this is a flat rate of $84.50 is what Moose Jaw charges. Regina charges $240 administrative fee and then adds it to your title, Battleford is doing a flat rate of 1,000, which definitely does not cover the costs. I don't know how they're funding that. Maybe they don't have very many to do. And then, as you can see here, Saskatoon is charging the homeowner 40% of the cost, but whatever that cost might be. So some houses might be 8,000, some houses might be 16,000. Depends on the service length.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions there. So I guess I don't want to see this despair. I'd love to see, I'm going to put a motion to bring a report back to council, and I know there's a cost item, so it likely will have to go to budget committee to kind of not only. I like the idea of having deferral to your taxes for 7-8 years. I think that's something is a little palatable to our residents, and it's not a huge cost when we go through there. It's important that we do look after not only our sections of the city, but also the private properties of residents who also is in the same system. So to me, I think we need to address some of these residents that have the lead services as well, and provide some incentives to change it. That incentive being maybe they don't have to assume a cost today, but we'll be paying it back over a course of 7 years, 10 years, whatever we decide, I guess, in that report. So I'll make that motion, I guess, well, I realize that we've already passed our budget, so it's going to have to come to budget. That's the only place it makes sense.
Correct. I would suggest, though, that because you're asking to apply it to taxes and there would be costs and timeframes and financing, it would be a financial report, because that's wouldn't come from the department, my department anyways.
Fair enough. Wherever it comes from, I know it's going to take us some work, and I appreciate the effort that's going to be put into that for our consideration and the benefit of our community and our residents. And financial, yeah.
Okay, any further discussion?
Tara Lennox-Stepp, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Lennox-Stepp.
Thank you. I support the motion, and I support the ideas that have been discussed today about placing the cost on property taxes or a deferral program. I just wanted to note that, as has been said, the report does indicate that Saskatoon, Regina, and Moose Jaw all require residents to change out their lead pipes when the city performs the lead pipe removal. And the City of Saskatoon website explains, has a good explanation as to why they mandate it and make it mandatory. And the reason on their website they state is that there is an issue that if you are a house that still has lead pipe on your private side, and if you have a water backup problem, then the lead within your household pipes end up backing up into the general system and can then affect all houses in the area. So I just wanted to share that thought on the issue, that there are good reasons why some cities and larger cities do make it mandatory. And also wanted to share that, we as a city, we put in resources into changing out those the city side lead pipes out of the ground. And so we're using tax dollars to do that, and there's a price tag attached to that, and that perhaps it is in the public interest to then follow Saskatoon, Regina, and Moose Jaw and say, look, we have to take the step to say now, if we the city have paid that money to take out our side of lead, sorry, homeowner, you are required to take out your side of lead for the betterment of the community. I know it's not easy, and it's not it's not an easy issue, but I do look forward to the report and further discussion on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lennox-Stepp. And I'll remind everybody that we spent $17,000 per household on 12th Street over the last 2 summers when we did the upgrades there. Mayor Dion.
Well, I want to thank you. I'm going to support the motion, and I'm going to support it moving forward as long as the conversation continues that the homeowner is going to pay. And then if we can help them figure out how the homeowner is going to pay, I have no issue with that, okay? Because there's only 400 of them. There's 14,000 homes that don't have it. And so I'll continue to support it as long as we focus on who's responsible to pay. We pay our side, and I do believe on the other side they have to pay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote as moved by Councillor Head. And Councillor Lennox Epp, can you see the motion?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Okay, we'll just wait for the vote and then. Okay, the vote is open. Councillor Lennox Epp?
Yes.
Thank you. And the vote carries 9-0, unanimous. Thank you. I'll turn the chair back over to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gronick and Councillor Edwards for reminding that as well. So that brings us to our next item, 7.1, reports of Crosswalk Safety Improvement Study, PowerPoint presentation by Evan Hastings, Transportation Traffic Manager. Is Evan here? So we're waiting for you to present, yes?
Oh, geez.
Thanks for coming back. Thanks for waiting so patiently. Go ahead.
Alrighty, well, I have a PowerPoint presentation for Crosswalk Safety Improvement Study. If we could bring that up onto the screen.
We're just pulling it up.
All right, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Evan Hastings. I'm the transportation manager for the city. And oh, there we go. Doesn't appear to be working.
One second, yeah, we'll have that fixed up.
Still nothing here.
Slides up here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, oh, there we go. So a pedestrian crosswalk treatment study was completed from November 2021 to April 2022. And there was 3 major goals of the study, and that was to enhance pedestrian and motorist safety at crossings, to improve our active transportation system, and to reduce traffic congestion at sensitive crossing locations. Next, please. So one of the new treatments available is the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, or RRFB. This is becoming widely used throughout North America. You're probably familiar with the treatment. It's in Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, and even cities as small as Martinsville, Warman, and Rostern. So just to show how beneficial this treatment is, Calgary is actually set to add 450 RRFBs throughout the next 9 years. And the treatment was added into the Transportation Association of Canada standards back in 2018. My study confirmed that the treatment is a minimum safety requirement at multiple locations throughout Prince Albert. Next, please. Okay, so I will show the treatment in action here. So as we can see, 115th Street East in Saskatoon, there's pedestrian crossing signs on either side of the road, and there's beacons above them. So essentially what happens is when a pedestrian presses the button, it's gonna activate. So we can click next, please. Oh, I think this worked. So you can see the sign is activated and pedestrians are able to cross the road safely and effectively, and traffic will stop for them. Oh, there, this is working now. So very similar to 115th Street in Saskatoon, we have 15th Avenue East near Helm Crescent, so just north of the Esso. And with eastern development in the city, traffic keeps growing and growing in this location. It's over 9,000 vehicles a day. And often if you're crossing at this location, you'll notice that you have to wait 30 seconds or a minute before vehicles will stop for you. So tax standards dictate that this area needs to be upgraded to an RRFB system. 3rd Avenue East near 28th Street East here. This is right near Vincent Massey. The traffic lights actually aren't standard. They're a little bit of overkill for what we need, and they create traffic congestion in the morning and in the evening. So what is better is the RRFB system where students can cross the road quickly and then traffic can go by afterwards. This actually improves sightlines and will improve safety for motorists and for pedestrians. Next is the hospital crossing 10th Avenue West. On the west side, we have the Victoria Hospital. The east side, we have Joseph Custer Reserve. So there's lots of people that take an extended period of time to cross the road. Pedestrian unfortunately was killed in 2017, which required the rapid flashing beacons on the right side there. Unfortunately, these are permanently flashing, so local traffic has begun to tune them out. So, due to this being 4 lanes wide, what we need to do is install rapid flashing beacons that'll allow pedestrians to cross the road safer and more efficiently. So some of the benefits I've already touched on include increased motorist yield to pedestrian rate. So that would just be, you click the button, you can cross the road right away. They're fully solar powered, sustainable, and there's no recurring electrical costs, so these aren't attached to the power grid at all. They're reliable and proven to operate in cold climates such as Saskatoon and Edmonton. Saskatoon's been using them since 2018. And there's reduced traffic congestion compared to pedestrian half signals when used in the correct environment. So the last location needing an RFB installation is 9th Street East, crossing 6th Avenue East here. With traffic counts of over 11,000 a day, it's not operating at a safe level, or a standard level of safety, sorry. And it's very similar to Taylor Street in Saskatoon. We can see here they've installed the RFBs in 2018, and it's been working very effectively since installation. The last thing to touch on would be 2nd Avenue West and 13th Street. This has been creating a lot of traffic congestion, and we can start the video here. So, it's going a little bit slow. So what's of note here, though, is when pedestrians go to cross the road, traffic has to stop for 40 seconds. So this video was taken Wednesday at about 3 p.m., so not a peak time, it's not a holiday, anything like that. This is a very common occurrence. But you can see traffic backs up all the way to 15th Street and over the Diefenbaker Bridge, which creates very unsafe situations for motorists and for pedestrians. And 40 seconds is actually a requirement based on tax standards just for the Columbian Center to cross the road. So it's of note that there's 104 accidents in this location in the last 9 years. What's proposed is to change this pedestrian half signal to something similar to Carlton. And that's shown right here. We can play the video. So as we see, vehicles will pull up to the signal here. They'll yield to the pedestrian, and as soon as the pedestrian crosses, the vehicles are able to proceed. So at this location, the vehicles stop for about 5 seconds as opposed to 40 seconds at 2nd and 13th. This is safer for the pedestrians, it improves sight lines, and it allows everybody to proceed safely and reduces congestion. So this would be the treatment proposed. It would basically be, it'd be a new updated system that would reduce our traffic poles there from 7 to 3. So that would reduce upkeep and reduce electrical costs. So cost summary, this has been sent to SGI Traffic Safety Grant Funding. It's about $55,000 for the 9 RRFB systems, and labor and equipment would be provided by the city in kind, and that would be under the traffic operating budget. The overhead flashing beacon installation would be about $22,000 in material and can also be covered under the traffic operating budget. And it should be noted in the report and in this PowerPoint, any pedestrian half signal that is removed would save $350 a year in electrical costs instantly, along with savings in electrical permits and upkeep costs. So if you have any questions, now's the time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kilmer.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and the really well-written report and the really concise presentation. I really appreciated that, and I will move the recommendation.
Councillor Grodnick.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yeah, thank you for the report. I want to commend not only you, but some of our new, younger hires that we had in finance. We've had people that have come up with really good reports that are very clear and really helps us understand the situation. So I really appreciate that. And kudos to the managers who've hired these very young, talented people. That's great to see. I'm very happy, too, that you've identified 9 areas. I'm sure there's other areas that councillors will bring forward as well, but those 9 areas are important. I'm very happy on 6th Avenue by the cone shop and the playground, the splash park, and then there's a cone shop right across the street, and that's a busy, busy street, and so I'm glad you identified that area as well, so thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Councillor Edwards.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate the report too. It's long overdue that we look at some of these. I cross the Helm Crescent one every day, and it makes me cringe. I believe someone's going to be killed in a short order, and I hope that we can put this in and move forward. So, because that's a very dangerous spot. Another one that I wanted to raise, and I'm going to raise, is not far from that, is the one that goes on 15th and LaCroix Street. Absolutely. And I'm just throwing that out because 15th is a very fast street. And unfortunately, we're not able to patrol all of these areas. And I bet you, well, that'll be my next requested area for our flashing light, that we haven't moved our signs in a while, the speed signs. So we'll have to all forward you our streets that we need. But that street is ridiculous. It's super fast. So that one, most people don't even know the crosswalk is there. So whether we can have a peek at that and do something different, better paint, whatever it might be, it's a concerned one.
And I will add, the goal is to identify more locations next year that also
Yeah.
need improvement.
That's terrific. The list, I agree with everything you come up with. Thank you very much.
Yes, I'm going to make a few comments about the report. I was, happy to see that we are doing a kind of an audit of our crosswalks, because there is a few that I thought should have been on the list. I am going to maybe flag them for you today. I noticed you have one of the crossings within Ward 3 at 6th Avenue, 9th Street. There's also one 2 blocks away from this one at 7th Street that I feel, you mentioned 11,000 vehicles a day. That one should also be looked at, and I realize it's not in this report, but something I'm flagging for the traffic manager, as well as Riverside School. I know we had an incident there last year with our students and our crossings there. There is no school zone on 4th Street, so there is some, quicker traffic throughout the day, and that should be looked at as well. And then I'm going to just flag one on 15th Street, the value lots. The store, the people can either cross at 6th Avenue West on 15th Street or 9th Avenue, but there's no in-between crosswalk, and I see people running across the road, and it's so wide, it takes people, anyway, I think that should be addressed as well, and I'm just flagging that one for you too. So that's all my comments. Councillor Zurkowski.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Unless the mayor wanted to go first, because I'll wait.
Putting my list together around my paper.
Okay.
In case I don't have a board.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll take care of my neighbors.
Well, I know that the mayor is very supportive of.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Heckling in the background. Could you pull up the slide, please, on the PowerPoint, the cost safety slide? No pressure. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you for the presentation. If we are able and we're willing to improve crosswalk safety for our pedestrians, I'm all over that. Let's make it happen. Let's go, go, go. Pausing for the however. The cost summary. So here's my question. Those items there, 1, 2, 3, 4, those locations, out of this report, those are the only 4 locations that you're proposing that we make changes to? Or is this a cost summary of all the changes that may include more than these 4 locations?
So I would clarify that of the 9 locations we're looking into, only these 4 would be covered in SGI traffic safety grant funding.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so This is just what may cost the city money, okay?
Yes.
So I'm excited that I think this city council is ready to move on increasing pedestrian safety, especially along our main corridors. I think there's some innovative solutions that came to us today, and I'm excited to move forward on those solutions. Positive for the however. There's one other location that's in the report, and that is on 6th Avenue West and 22nd Street. 6th Avenue West and 22nd Street. Now, no fault of the current manager, but every 3 or 4 years, administration comes to us and tries to get us to remove that red light, pedestrian activated only. I'll call it the Shenanigans Corner. Great brunch on Sunday morning. So, I think what I'm hearing is, this report is all about increasing safety at our pedestrian crosswalks. Removing that red light does nothing to increase safety. What's unique about that location is the hill, and that's what's unique. And sure, Agnes Marasti is no longer there, and sure, there's St. Dan's has one further down. But I'll challenge you to take your mother, or maybe not your mother, or maybe somebody's grandmother, to see if you can cross that street before that car comes up at 70 kilometers an hour up that hill. That is a unique location. That is a unique location. And so it's already there. Leave it. You don't need to, the expense or the manpower or womanpower to take it down. It's already there. Let's move forward. Leave that one where it is, and let's improve, because that's what this report is all about. Let's improve crosswalks, and let's leave that one. It's already made it safer. I've never got any calls from people driving vehicles about having to stop for my mother or my grandmother crossing that intersection. All the complaints and worries come from before that light went up, crossing at that location. So there's a little historical perspective and a little bit of detail in this report. And so, that resolution in front of us, that was moved. I'm curious if administration will take that recommendation and run with it and see this recommendation as carte blanche and make changes to that crosswalk at 22nd Street and 6th Avenue West. If this motion passes the way it is that added to the list of intersections to change? I'm asking for understanding, clarification. No, I'm trying to find it in that list. But that's because that's only where we're going to spend somebody else's money. So I need some clarification on that, please.
So the intent would be to move forward with that. The reasoning being is, since it has such a low traffic count currently, most people, and I live in the area, most people just run across the road. I haven't actually seen anybody click the pedestrian button yet.
Yeah.
So that's actually creating a much more unsafe environment for the pedestrians, because vehicles are only looking at the green or red light now. They're not actually looking for pedestrians.
Yeah.
So if people are crossing the road and somebody comes flying up, they're only looking at the light, they're not looking for the pedestrian. So it's not only having additional electrical costs, but it's actually an unsafe environment for pedestrians.
Yeah. I wonder if we can move on these other initiatives and continue the research and debate on that separate item itself, because I would like to have a chance to weigh in on that conversation, because it took a Herculean effort to put that light up there, which increased the safety. And you and I are lucky enough to be employed during the day, so we're not there at 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning watching Mrs. and Mr. walk across there for the morning coffee and cheesecake. It's a busy location for the neighborhood, and that's the consequence and the value of having commercial in residential areas. They've embraced that, and that's a win-win story. That's a good news story in our residential areas to have a commercial enterprise there, a business there. That's great. But along with that comes responsibility for the city, I think. That light is there, it exists, and people run across there, yes, but there's also people that need that red light that is now only pedestrian activated to cross that street and need the time to do it. And so what I've heard, and thank you for clarifying, is this motion passes, that will also see a change to that intersection without any public consultation. That will cause a storm for people spend their days in this building. So if we really believe this is the best case to improve safety, I'm asking the mover and I'm asking council's support to deal with that intersection separately because of the unique aspects of it, commercial, interresidential, and the hill. And just to clarify, what I heard is if this motion passes, there will be a change to 22nd Street and 6th Avenue, those lights there. And I heard, yes, there will be. So, and remember, I invited you to speak first.
But I didn't see it on the list, though.
Hang on.
That's why we're all sitting here.
And that's, okay, good.
On the list, are they trying to sneak something by us, or?
The detail, devil's in the detail, and however, and that's why I asked the question, if this motion passes, yes, there will be changes at that intersection.
Hang on, to the director, because it is in the report. Can you speak to that, Director? Manager, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the report has alternatives. The intention of the PowerPoint was to bring up some of the new technology, so that'd be the rapid rectangular flashing beacons that we currently don't have in the city. In the report, there also was the intent to remove a few of the pedestrian half signals throughout the city.
Thank you. So with the permission of the mover, I would like to pause on that location. And I'm not advocating, if I can be convinced otherwise, and we can be convinced otherwise, I'll have that conversation. But in order to move on these other intersections, increase crosswalk safety, I'm asking the mover to park that one location and move forward on the rest with a recommendation.
Councillor Kilmer.
I'm having difficulty taking one of the half signals out as it is the same. The half signal on 28th and 3rd Avenue is exactly the same. It does, change is difficult, and maybe we can ask the manager that in the process, in the order of events of the change, just so that the residents at that corner get used to the new technology for crosswalks, that perhaps that one comes further down in the change. And if we find that it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I do think the report was clear, and it has proven to be effective. So currently, right now, that's what I'm thinking, is not to change it.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. I also like to highlight one on 15th Street and 16th Avenue West as well. So it's a school crossing as well to go to a school. Across the street is Silkins, and there's a lot of traffic that go down 15th Street West to the penitentiary and various other crossings along that road where children cross without lights and need beacons, or further down. I've sat at further down locations, and if you do not have these lights in, the children cannot cross those crosswalks. And because I'll tell you, people will run over your children. They will. Honest to God, I've watched it. It's unbelievable. I watched it for an hour and a half, and they will run over the kids. It's just bizarre to me. But with this location as well, I'm not willing to part with it, because it's the only, people see red, they stop. People see green, they go. But if they see these little flashy lights over here and kids are into crosswalk, I'm telling you, they're not gonna stop. They're not gonna stop.
And I will add, in the report, both of these locations that you've brought up, there would not be an installation of RRFBs. It would be a standard, pedestrian crossing sign.
Oh, so like Carlton.
No, that would be 2nd and 13th would be like Carlton. The rectangular flashing beacons would be at the 4 proposed locations in the PowerPoint. And the other ones discussed would be removal of pedestrian half signals because they aren't warranted.
Thank you.
Mayor Dion.
I thought it was a good report at the start, but it's caused so much confusion now and debate. Like, I thought when we brought it, I would have moved the motion that was up on the screen and not this one. Because if we would have just moved the motion and removed that one set of beacons to be removed, then he could go ahead with the process. But I didn't understand what they're doing is, once we approve this, they can tomorrow go take beacons and signs down without us even knowing. And so that's my concern, and he can see, you know, and of course, he's a new employee, so I'll spare him the wrath, you know, and maybe that's why they gave him this report. Good luck, you know, but you can tell we're all passionate about our wards, and unfortunately, I do support some of the councillors in the wards because they live there. They see the traffic. How often does our department see the traffic? They don't. We live in those things, okay? Like, I go with shenanigans, and boy, I can't get across the street quick enough on that hill. You know, but the only thing is, my colleague also has to be reasonable because he's got more lights around that place than anyone else. He goes half a block and there's another set of lights. You know,
And-
so to me, there's too many lights there.
Yeah, and it would bring up 6th and 18th and 6th and 26th also just have standard crosswalks, and they've been operating just fine.
Councillor Zerkowski.
Thank you. I don't wish to be argumentative. I don't. I think we need to, I think there's a pathway forward for sure. But you can't convince me that that is not a unique corner because of the hill. 3rd and 28th doesn't have that hill. It's not exactly the same. And so that's the unique aspect of the hill. There's lots of value in this report, and I think we should move forward on the bulk of it. And that intersection, removing what's currently there, does not increase the safety. If you look at the title of this report, it does not belong in that report. Maybe it belongs in a report that says new ways to do things, more efficient ways, cheaper ways, new technology, how to run crosswalks. Sure, put it in that report. But it doesn't increase safety. I just. Well, I don't want to be too bossy.
Deputy Mayor?
Okay. So
Deputy Mayor?
I'll pause.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead, Director.
Excuse me, I'd just like to add is, I do agree with what the manager has proposed because based on the numbers, he's made correct decisions. But I still understand where the council is coming from because you have concerns in your own wards. May I offer a suggestion, it's maybe a halfway middle ground, is that if we removed the half signals that are the red light signals that have been there for decades and are very costly to maintain, in addition to the $700 in electricity for each one of them, there's our manpower that have to go and repair them constantly. They don't qualify for the flashing yellows, but we could install those as a compromise because they're going to be zero electrical cost because they're solar powered. They're very simple to operate. And the change, as you know, when you make changes in the city of Prince Albert, a new set of lights or a change to the road, that becomes the new norm. People now suddenly notice the change. It becomes a safer situation because when they see that flashing yellow, they will stop because it's new. And versus the one, as the manager pointed out, they're not looking for pedestrians that run across the street that forget to push the button. So that could be a good compromise is we'll keep those two on the list, but we put the new yellow cautionary instant on lights, and that way the person can cross safely, but as soon as they've hit the curb, the cars can move forward.
Nope, hang on.
Yes, that's what these are. That's what all of these are. They're push activated, instant on. Now the pedestrian has full control of the intersection. The people notice the flashing because they're LED, they're flashing very rapidly. They must stop. The moment the pedestrian has crossed the street, then the vehicle now has access to the road again. Instead of, as he showed you in the video, the cars have to sit for 40 seconds and the traffic starts to back up and then people get frustrated.
I would imagine that there's probably value in consistency of having
Absolutely.
throughout the city. So I'm curious from the manager, would you agree with your boss's analysis that there's consistency and having that leg similar to others as we move forward?
No, I would definitely agree that there's value in consistency, but there's also unique circumstances, like you've pointed out, the hill there. I've went out and, looked at the sight lines, the visibility coming up the hill, and I know we'd be able to install warning signs and signs in the correct location, but like you've brought up, like Wes has brought up, there are unique circumstances, so we could look to do some sort of higher up elevated lighting system there.
Thank you. Thank you. Does that need to be reflected in the motion, or is that an undertaking? Okay.
That would be good, and we would follow through on that.
I'll pause for the mover.
Councillor Kilmer.
I would like to make a change, that the crosswalk safety improvement recommendation be approved with the exception of the two locations, 6th and 22nd West, and 15th and 16th Avenue West.
16th Avenue West at 15th Street. Okay.
Oh. To be evaluated and looked at a later date? Oh, to be the yellow flashing light. Sorry.
Instant on.
Instant on. It's just coming to me.
It's like chocolate in a cup.
Kind of. We're good? Does that make sense?
Okay, we're good with that motion? Councillor Zarkowski, yes.
Not done. Two locations, 4th Avenue West and 15th Street West. I wonder if you have an opinion yet on that intersection there? Or is that sort of on your research? Because that's one that we also take right next to there's a pharmacy, I think, on 15th Street there at the bottom of the hill. Lots of pedestrian there, lots of vehicles there. As you say, they don't see pedestrians. So I don't necessarily want a detailed answer. I'm just wondering if that's on your radar.
I've definitely looked at that location. Currently, there's a crosswalk at Rivier that's closer than 120 meters to that, so
Right.
generally you don't want to have two crosswalks within 120 meters of each other, but I'm definitely, I've looked at that location and I can see the value in it.
Right. That could be fixed though, because you could take my pen and put it over here and it's like problem solved. So no, you're doing good. Just everybody needs to hear you. Okay, thank you for that. This one wasn't in my ward, so it's a bonus marks, yeah. The other one is, refers to the crosswalk, the suggested, I guess, if this passes, the crosswalk on 2nd Avenue as you come off the bridge. Once that change is made, do you anticipate an opportunity at some way down the road, literally, that perhaps we can take a look at doing something different with that set of lights as you come off the bridge?
That opportunity could be explored in the future, although that would have to be, I'd have to put some hours into that and give it some good thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Miller.
Thank you. So with the 4th Avenue West and 15th Street, I'm quite worried about that because 2 previous city managers ago told us that we could not put one there because it's on a curve. So I find that really interesting that you're going to have a relook at that.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Tara Lennox up.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Lennox up.
Thank you very much. In regards to the 15th Street West and 4th Avenue West crosswalk, I have also heard frequently from the public that they are wishing the city to place a crosswalk at that location. So I am happy to hear that administration is looking into that and hope to hear back about that. Although I hear and understand Councillor Miller's comment about safety and curve, but I'm interested to hear more about that. Of course, that intersection lines up with St. Mary's High School, and I have noticed high school students trying to cross there, and that it's a difficult crossing space. So I think that would be valuable to look at. I appreciate the amendments that were made by the mover. I also was concerned about those two locations being removed, and so I support the amendments there. I had one question for administration. The question is regarding 2nd Avenue West and 13th Street West in front of Columbian Center towards the Gateway Mall. Are you concerned at all that if we were to take that 40-second delay traffic light out and replace it with the flashing as proposed, are you concerned at all about the Columbian Center is a seniors residence building. There are seniors there in their 80s and 90s who walk across that crosswalk to attend to the food court in the Gateway Mall. Are you concerned at all that they may not make it to, they may get to the middle, to the Meridian, while the flashers are on, but may not make it across all of those lanes of traffic while the flashers are going, and maybe stuck then at the Meridian with traffic flowing freely? Are you concerned at all about the different time delay and the impact that might have?
I'd like to say that the signal time won't change. Like the lights would still be flashing for the same amount of time. It just allows vehicles to yield, stop, watch the pedestrians walk across the road, and when it's safe, proceed.
Okay, so that timeline will not change. That's good to know. And then just, are you concerned at all that traffic may not take those flashers as seriously on 2nd Avenue, a major roadway, and may, as compared to traffic lights that are currently hanging there? Are you concerned at all about that?
I would point towards the Carlton crossing currently, which is very similar conditions, and as we've seen, they've been very effective.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. Thank you, Transportation and Traffic Manager, for your report and answering the questions. Votes open. Councilor Lennox Zapp, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, one more. Okay, close it. Yeah. And that's carried unanimously. Number 8, we have unfinished business. There is none. Number 9, Councilor Kilmer.
I move to adjourn.
Go to the vote. Votes open. Councilor Lennox Zapp.
Yes.
Thank you. Close it. We are adjourned. We'll be back at 10 after 6.